Are PC video game store exclusives really as bad as some would have you believe? Let's chat about it, but first, my opinion. I'm Tarmack, and this is Feature Creep. When you buy a computer, there's a certain amount of freedom that you're purchasing. You can install pretty close to whatever you want, and you can control a significant amount of how your computer runs, what it does from day to day. But as the online world has progressed, more and more content has had to evolve around protecting revenue streams. So we've seen software licenses change, cloud services take root with subscription fees, and where gaming is concerned, we've seen incentives by some of the sellers of games to get some exclusive time with a product on their storefront. A lot of this mirrors what's been happening in the console market, well, since it began. Looking back as far as the Commodore and Atari systems, through to Nintendo, Sega, Microsoft, and Sony platforms, games being available on one and not another is a staple of the gaming ecosystem. And historically, the driving force for this was time and money. Each console was built with the intent of providing a game-dedicated experience, an arms race of sorts for video game performance or innovative game-specific functionality. In many ways, a computer could do all of these things, but a dedicated to gaming machine could be built for cheaper and get similar performance because it didn't have to do anything else, while a PC was a jack of all trades. Fast forward to today, and we have a thriving six-pronged game ecosystem: PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, iOS, and Android, which is Linux with a shiny bow on top. Sure, arcade uprights still exist, Mac has some games, and Stadia's doing really well. We'll discount the small ones for now. Each of these ecosystems have a difficult time crossing over from one to another because they're all unique. They have their own software design challenges, and they don't particularly speak the same language. The notable exception is the direction Microsoft is going with Xbox by having it and Windows 10 be extremely similar at the operating system level, which is why Xbox Play Anywhere games can be relatively easily ported from one to the other. We have built-in exclusivity across these distinct platforms, and a certain level of tribalism between the various sets of hardware. Everybody is happy when a game that they want is available on their system of choice, and less happy, even hostile, when it's not.
You were right to fear the world. It has gone mad.
Now, me personally, I'm primarily a PC player. I spent a good amount of scratch on a computer which can run just about everything I want to throw at it on max settings. I've got a PS4, PS3, and Xbox 360, but they don't get as much use because I have my preference. You probably have your preference as well, and that's great. I think everybody should play games in the way that best suits what they want and need, period, full stop. You should also buy from whatever source you want and which fits your needs and ethics best. There is a battle raging on PC, though, with regard to these lovely exclusive titles. The latest in the list of the quote fallen is Hitman 3, which Epic Games has paid for exclusivity to the Epic Store for a year before it can be sold elsewhere on PC. Now, don't forget that there are console versions, they're just not a part of this exclusivity deal. And there's a strong online narrative which says that this exclusivity is anti-consumer. But that's where I part ways with many gamers online. Let's address why someone would sign an exclusivity deal in the first place. When you release a game, generally speaking, you want the widest range of exposure that you can get and make purchasing your game the easiest it can be for everyone. In an ideal world, a game would release simultaneously on all of the consoles, on PC via multiple stores to buy from, and hell, even mobile if the platform suits the game. So by signing a deal with a single company, you're giving up part of the wide potential exposure. So you have to be doing it for a reason, right? The company you signed with has to be giving you something, and in most cases it's a guaranteed revenue stream, but it could easily be not monetary specifically, but instead maybe an active promotional campaign or publishing arrangement where they push your game for you. In the case of the Epic Store, these appear to be generally cash for exclusivity deals. Put yourself in the shoes of a small indie developer, or perhaps a non-small dev, but your last game, shall we say, underperformed, as is the case with IO Interactive's Hitman 2. You're given an offer from a company like Epic who says, we'll take on some of your risk, and we'll guarantee the same amount you would have made if you had sold, say, 50,000 copies of your game. Now, you know from your own market research that 50,000 copies was maybe even your target, but isn't quite as high as you'd hoped it would sell if the stars aligned. but it's a zero-risk endeavor because they're going to give you that cash as a guarantee. At the end of a development cycle, it makes a hell of a lot of sense sometimes to take the guaranteed payday. And since Epic is the one taking that risk off of your shoulders, it makes sense that they should get something in return as well. And that something is your game helping to raise the profile of their store by being exclusive for a while. This is the same reason Microsoft and Sony sign games to exclusive console deals. The only difference is that for console exclusives, you have a multiple $100 entry fee to buy the hardware. In fact, by funding revenue guarantees for smaller games and bringing these into the Epic store, I would not be surprised in the slightest if Epic has actually saved some small studios from going under. Releasing on PC is a crapshoot these days, even if your game is really good. And many of these games getting guaranteed revenue can easily have made far less without the exclusivity deal. Do you want more active game devs or less? So, what does the situation look like from the gamer side? Buying games on PC is really very monopoly driven, with a few companies who gamers support doing exclusives and a few who don't get that luxury. It seems that if you develop a game, you have more latitude to only release it on your own store. Hello, Blizzard Entertainment. On the flip side, however, let's be honest, you play Origin, GOG, and any others I've forgotten because they don't matter, well, don't matter. It's Steam. That's the monopoly in the room. And let's also give Valve credit for having the best store plus game library ecosystem out there. It's far and away the most feature-rich, has the most games by a country mile, and is the de facto place to get games enough so that just about every other store online is really just selling Steam keys. If a game comes out on something other than Steam, there will be a bit of whining about having to install multiple clients on your computer. But I have to ask, is that really too big of a problem for people? A second game store client costs nothing, takes so little in hard drive storage as to be negligible, and with how many free games Epic is just throwing into the wind, you'd have to buy a significant amount as well just for them to break even on you. And if this happens after you've already kickstarted a game, or pre-ordered it somewhere else, that strikes me as an issue with the developer, not Epic. Then there's the argument over performance because of multiple clients. Which isn't much of one, just set the client to not boot when Windows does. Simple, run it as you need it, zero impact. Following that is the my games aren't in the same library issue. Steam can add non-Steam games to the library, as can GOG. And there are other programs that centralize game libraries. At what point do the little nagging issues of a multi-client scenario just become excuses for something else? PC gamers identify with Steam and give Valve a lot of loyalty because they've done a lot of good for PC gaming. That's fine. Say you don't want to buy something on the Epic Store because you prefer buying from Valve. But don't come up with nonsensical excuses. A game only being available from Epic is the same as having to go to Best Buy instead of Walmart to buy a product. It's a store and little else. It's not anti-consumer to have to travel to a different place in a different direction to buy a product you want. Epic isn't being anti-consumer by paying developers through the nose and taking on significant financial risk with each deal, trying to get into the game store business against the behemoth that is Steam. They're being anti-consumer in other ways, but not this one. What I'm saying in all of this is not that you should support Epic Games. There are more reasons than a short editorial could lay out to put that into question, but the same can certainly be said of Valve. Rather, I'm saying that we need to do a better job in the greater game community of expressing what we want and arguing for our best interests. We have to pick the right reasons to be enraged, and games exclusive to a store that is on the same platform you already have requires zero monetary investment to download the client and is competitively priced with the same product quality you'd get if the game wasn't exclusive is not the right reason. How many game store clients do you have on your computer, and where do you stand on this issue? Let's chat about it. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Tarmack, and that's all I have to say.